Alright, it's been about a week, at least for me, since I last saw the Rings of Power. The last episode got out about a week ago, so I've had time to mull things over a bit, and let's just say I have some things to talk about, and I've gotten a list of things. You've probably seen the title of the video, how much the show, The Rings of Power, differs from what Tolkien actually wrote. And I know that some will bring up that, Peter Jackson's movies, Lord of the Rings, they took some liberties on the lore and made some changes. Yes, I agree, and I know that there are some certain, die-hard fans who will say that eviscerated the work. For instance, Christopher Tolkien himself, J.R. Tolkien's son, said that he was not a fan of the movies, and when your father is one of like the greatest lore masters and world builders out there, I will grant you that, like you have the right to have that opinion. But for me, who's not super into the lore and every single detail, I find the Peter Jackson movies fantastic. It kind of shaped my childhood and who I am. It's kind of like made me into why I love these certain things right here. So I will admit, is it 100% accurate? No, of course not. But it's still a well-made form of movies. And with that in mind, I just want to go over a couple of things that are just some less than others, but a couple fundamental basics that you think you would understand. Are like some topics that I want to bring up. And by the way, this is going to be just a raw footage right here. I don't know how much editing is going to go into play this, so this might just be one long-winded take right here, so bear with me here. I am going to go and try and whip these off as fast as possible, just get my grievances out of the way. A couple of things that I have noticed in the Rings of Power that are very, very hard to mesh with what we know of Tolkien to be. I apologize if that's getting on the film, and I try to keep that as little as possible. Here we go. Orcs. Yes, they have gone full Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, specifically. And that, if you've seen those movies, it was interesting. Apparently the VFX artists gave up by the time at the end of those movies because the whole debacle about like vampires sparkling in sunlight. By the time you watch the second movie, they'll be in sunlight, and sometimes they'll sparkle, sometimes they won't. Apparently orcs are like vampires in that their flesh will melt and burn, peel off their body when they come into direct sunlight. Sometimes they do, but then there's other scenes where they're in sun and they'll be completely fine. So, so first off, the just consistency is awesome there, and also when has the sun ever, harmed orcs to that level? We know that orcs have no love of sunlight, and they don't going out and working and doing jobs in sunlight. That's why kind of Sauron has Mordor as this giant cloud in order to help cover it for them. But they can still operate and do their jobs. But apparently in this one they are vampires and not orcs. So that's the first one there. What else we got here? Harfoot population, yes, are accustomed to yearly migration. This is just a normal thing for them. When, as far as I am aware, again, people who know more about this, please correct me. But as far as I know, Harfoots, they're hobbits, by the way. That's what they are. The Rings of Power has a way to get around this, that they can't use hobbits. So there's a specific breed of Harfoots, which means they're under the hobbit category. But since they're not saying hobbits, people aren't, getting in too much of an issue so far. People hate the hobbits, and I'll get into why. But first, the Harfoots seem to be just going off on a yearly migration where they go from place to place and travel around and do these things, when, as far as I know, both in the lore, from what we even know of the Shire, is that they all have their own little rural community where they stay together. Like they have the hobbits from the Shire in that region. We have what's called the Stour hobbits, which are beyond like the Misty Mountain region area. They have there, that's kind of where Gollum/Smeagol came about. And they had like their little region that they all stuck together. Because that's the thing, they claim nobody goes up trail and nobody walks alone. They have this whole song that they sing to help the young'uns as, figuring out how they all stick together. They don't. They do not. They will leave you for dead at the first sign of trouble. The Nori, one of our main protagonists, again, I apologize if I do not remember their names because, you know, they're that memorable here. But Nori, kind of one of our main Harfoot characters, has a debacle with bringing a certain individual into their community who seems a bit dangerous. And for this, she is de-caravanned. Again, you know, not outcast or exiled or banished, de-caravanned. They have to make up a word for that. But so she is completely kind of, they want to throw her out of the community for bringing this particular individual who had for the slight possibility that he is a bit dangerous, unknown, and what could he possibly do. That's just one instance there. The father, who has his leg injured, is, for other reasons, might be tied even to the first one, because again, I don't remember so much of it, is put in the back of the caravan where he can't keep up. And so basically they are left behind. And by the way, the leader of the group, I think his name is Sadok, or Sadok, correct me if I'm wrong, he is reading a book of the people that have died. They have left behind. They all laugh about someone dying because of bees, because he was an idiot. And there was a snowstorm, and there was one cold winter day where some whole family died. That was Poppy's family, kind of our female Samwise Gamgee character. So there's that. The whole Harfoot yearly migration and the whole, you know, loving community is completely gone. They will leave you for dead. I'm surprised they're not cannibals at this point. You think I'm being harsh? I'm like, it's not that bad. For those of you who have not seen it, you know. And for those of you who have seen it, you know. It's really, really bad when you have a particular character who burns down the entire Hobbit establishment community, and we are all cheering. I know I was. Shad from Shadiversity was cheering. Nathan was. I believe Angry Joe from the AngryJoeShow was cheering. Like there's a whole bunch of community who were like, yes, kill these hobbits! Kill these hobbits! It's kind of a problem in the movie there. Moving on. Yes, moving on to Gandalf, because, you know, spoiler, that was the particular character that Nori brought into the community that they were having difficulty accepting into the community. But Gandalf apparently falls from the sky as a meteor with no memory of who he is and what he is supposed to do. You know, you would think that one of the most famous Istari, you know, wizards of all time, you know, who purposefully sailed, landed in London. The five of them, again, debatable whether the two blue wizards came in earlier. I'm going to set that aside for now. But, you know, these five wizards arrived in London as emissaries from, you know, the Undying Ones, from Valinor, the Valar, sent them to help. You know, they came in full force with a mission, and they arrived on a boat. Specifically Gandalf. So why they have Gandalf? Because, again, they have not explicitly said he's Gandalf, but he has an affinity for the Harfoots. You know, he has with the community. He has a thing for moths, which we know from the Peter Jackson movies that he communicates through those. And he says the line when he's finally going off to figure out, you know, what he needs to do. And Nori is accompanying him. He says, "Don't worry, Eleanor Brandyfoot. When in doubt, always follow your nose." So, I wonder who this character could be. So, Gandalf is not the Great Wizard, because, you know, he's still, you know, can't call him Gandalf, because apparently, you know, through legal stipulations, we have, you know, the writers or whatever are not allowed to use that name for some reason, or they just want us to keep guessing. I don't know, just come out and say it. But then again, so one, it has to be Gandalf, but then two, it can't be Gandalf, because, you know, we have certain lore about what he does and what happens to him. Let's see. Moving on. Galadriel never sailed to the island of Numenor. And the excuse that people are giving on this one is that, well, Tolkien never said that she went to Numenor, so, you know, it's hypothetically possible that she could have done. And that is a terrible excuse. Okay, like, you put that into anything, into any work about, okay, like, say I want to make figure that out later. Let's say we're making a Robin Hood adaptation, you know, from the previous movie that I was talking about. So let's say people want to make a Robin Hood movie. Well, it never explicitly says that Robin Hood was 73 feet tall, you know, and that he never fought a dragon with his bare hands and decided to hurl a spear into the 5 rings of the Olympics. You know, so it never explicitly says that, so I can do it right now. So, like, that excuse is like, you pick up anything that you say, well, it never explicitly says. I couldn't say I could do that. That is just a horrible excuse. And, you know, this is one of the most important female characters in the entire book. This is Lady Galadriel, who, you know, she's from the dawning of, like, saw the first trees being destroyed, and then seeing the sun and moon being created, and all the way through the Third Age helping Frodo and Sam. And this is Numenor, you know, like one of the greatest civilizations of men ever in the history of Tolkien. You would think that if some connection happening, Tolkien would have wrote it down in the decades that he took to write all this stuff down, but there's no mention of Tolkien stuff, like, not in what Numenor would have done, not what Galadriel, she was busy off doing this thing, nothing's there, but apparently she sells to Numenor, and apparently she is on the council very rapidly. When, according to this timeline, the Numenorians are supposed to be hating and envious of elves of their long lifespans, and they are enslaving other lesser men, as they call it. So you have the Corsairs of Umbar, you know that? We have probably the other Corsairs around the coast of near Harad and stuff like. They've enslaved certain things because they view them as lesser men. And they have hatred for the elves with them. So why they would think that this elf would just show up and immediately be on the war council giving advice is beyond me. So, that's that one there. Sorry if there's a camera change, my battery was getting low, so I had to switch it out. Sorry about that. Moving on from Galadriel, we have, yes, we talked about Numenor, so let's continue with that Numenor. Numenorian cavalry. Explain to me how you could miss this one. So, in the lore, Numenor revered the horse. They loved the martial prowess and grace of the horse, but they would never use it for battle. And yet, we have a battle sequence where all the Numenorian soldiers are cavalry units. There's no infantry, there's no archers, there's no, like, artillery, only cavalry unit. Specifically, the one type of unit that Numenor would never have used. One, because they revere it. Also, if you don't know, the Numenorians are supposed to be really, really tall. Average 7 feet tall. So I'm base 6 feet tall. Okay, so now we have a 7 foot tall Numenorians, fully in armor, with weapons, on top of a horse. That poor horse is going to get crushed. Okay? So that's another reason why they didn't have cavalry, because, you know, their horses would just completely just crumble under the weight of these guys here. So why the heck they have Numenorian cavalry? I guess they want to harp on the Rohirrim there. They want to think that that's cool. Okay, maybe that does not somebody affects other people, but, you know, me, I just really enjoy Numenor, and so maybe that's just affecting me. So anyway, moving on. Oh, okay, so this one is the big one. So the first ones were kind of just easing into this one here. Celeborn, you know, mentioned in the Peter Jackson movies there. Celeborn is the husband of Galadriel. And, you know, together they have a daughter named Celebrian. I don't get difficult on the pronunciation there. I believe it smells Celebrian. But their daughter, Galadriel's daughter, Celebrian, marries Elrond of Rivendell. So that's his wife right there. And through them they have a daughter, Arwen. And we all know that Arwen comes and meets up together with Aragorn. You know, so there's this whole, you know, big deal right here. Apparently, they never fully state it, but it is heavily implied that Celeborn is dead. Flat out dead. That's what they're heavily implying. Now I know it's not explicitly stated because the wording, I believe, is that there's this kid named Theo who asks Galadriel, due to circumstances, you know, like, have you ever lost someone that you loved? And she says, yes, my brother Finrod. And we all know this from the very beginning episode of the prologue, where we know, and also from the lore, so at least that's still that, yes, her brother Finrod died in a battle with Sauron. So we know that. Then the very next words out of her mouth are, and my husband, Celeborn. Now it says that she follows it up with that, which says, like, the last time I saw him was yada 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 yada. So I'm assuming that they're going to imply in the Rings of Power that, you know, oh, surprise, he didn't really dead, he actually survived some circumstances and he's just waiting for her. But you preface that with that, like, did you lose someone? You lose your brother who is definitively dead, and then you follow that up with Celeborn, implying that he's also dead. You can't do that, okay? Moving on. Yes, so apparently the Nazgul exist in this universe. And you might be wondering, for those of you who don't know, so I'm like, well, obviously the Nazgul, you know, are ring race, you know, like we've seen the 9, you know, so I'm like, yes, I know, you've seen them. But you're forgetting one thing. They're called ring wraiths. Remember? If I remember correctly, Frodo was asking what these weird nightmarish creatures are, and it says they were once men, great kings of men, and then Sauron the Deceiver gave them 9 rings of power. Blinded by their greed, they took them without question, one by one falling into darkness. They are the Nazgul, ring wraiths, neither living nor dead. Nice, beautiful sequence right there. There's a lot of things that I memorized from that movie there. So, very important, ring wraiths. Wraiths with rings. In the show, we have no rings men. Not the 3 elven rings, not the 7 dwarven rings, not the 9 rings of men. No rings. So somebody explain to me how we have Nazgul, who by the way are apparently female at this point. We have female Nazgul alive around the time before the Rings of Power are made. How can you have ring wraiths without any rings? Next one, Durin's Bane. Durin's Bane, for those of you who don't know, is the name given by the dwarves to the Balrog that destroyed basically Moria. For those of you who know, that is, I believe that's specifically the one that Gandalf duels in the Fellowship of the Ring, because, you know, he didn't want to go take the tunnels to the Mines of Moria. He wanted to take the other pass because he didn't want to avoid, because he knew that there was a Balrog underneath there, and if they woke him up, that, you know, there might have a showdown right there. The Moria has fallen from the realm of the dwarves, and because of Durin's Bane. And apparently, Durin's Bane is already awake. In this particular time, hundreds if not thousands of years before it's supposed to be awoken. And by the way, he's just chilling there. He's just sitting back, relaxing, doing nothing. Just minding my own business. Yeah, I know. The dwarves are up there. I can hear them. They've been throwing stuff down here. I can see it. They're littering right in my yard. I'm kind of annoyed by this. No. One day I might do something about it. So, wrong timeline, and he's currently awake and not doing anything. So, what the heck? Speaking of Balrogs, the origin of Mithril. Super convoluted. Apparently, they mentioned this, is that, now of course they kind of get away with this by saying that, well, the story is sort of apocryphal, it's not meant to be, it's more like an allegory, not to be intended to take it literally. But, you know, by the way they show it seems to be taken literally because, you know, they find this to be through that matches the description. But apparently, there was this tree with the light of a lost Silmaril. And, okay, explain to me how, first off, in the lore of the Lord of the Rings, or, you know, Silmarillion, the Silmarils were kind of, you know, lost. But we know where they were. One was thrown into the sea. Hence, you know, we had this whole thing about fire, water, and air. or earth, air, and water, basically. Earth being the part of where he's kind of like jumped into a volcano, so you kind of had that little bit of fire as well, so it's a little bit confusing. But so we have one guy had a Silmaril and, you know, for reasons, jumped into the volcano, into the earth, and took the Silmaril with him. One cast it out into the sea, and then one wore it as a crown when he went into the stars. So we have the air, the earth, and land over here. We know where they are. Apparently this tree has a lost Silmaril. I'm like, no, there's only 3. We know this. So what the heck is this tree doing with a Silmaril? So there's that. And apparently, this tree was apparently so sacred that a particular elf was trying to channel his magic juice into it, while a Balrog had his laser whip, or whatever, wrapped around it, and they were all channeling the power, so he was trying to heal it, while the Balrog was trying to destroy it. Simultaneously, a bolt of lightning, apparently Thor got involved, and struck the tree, and so Balrog plus tree plus Silmaril plus elf plus lightning equals Mithril. I'm not making this up. This is actually in the show. When the lightning struck the tree, it shot into the tree and sent like shimmers down into like the roots of the mountains basically, and formed the vein network of Mithril that could be mined. You think I'm joking? I'm not. Okay. Oh yes, the timeline is completely messed up. We have our main characters of... So yes, I mentioned that, you know, Galadriel, you know, going to Numenor and stuff like that. Well, because who is there, what she's happen to be talking to, happens to be Elendil and Isildur. You know, Isildur, who took up his father Elendil's sword and chopped off, you know, the ring from Sauron's hand. You know, that whole started this whole Lord of the Rings we saw in the prologue. Yeah, that one. Yeah, well, apparently that's around, rough numbers, I want to say 3200 and 3300 Second Age. And the Forging of the Rings of Power is around 1500 and 1600 Second Age. So we have like over 1,500 years removed, because the Rings of Power have not even made yet, and here's Galadriel meeting Elendil and Isildur. So this is how much the entire timeline is messed up here. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what timeline are we supposed to be in here? Are we supposed to be during the Forging of the Rings of Power, and they've moved Elendil and Isildur back? Or are we with Elendil and Isildur in the Kingdom of Numenor, and we're bringing the Rings of Power closer to this timeline here? I have no idea. So that's that one there. Now we're going into some really messed up stuff there. Okay, how do I want to deal with this one here? So, apparently, the 3 elven rings are made first. Yeah, right. The rings of power that were made. If anyone who knows any little bit of the lore, we all know that Anatar, Lord of Gifts, you know, secretly Sauron in disguise, his fair form, goes to Celebrimbor, the master smith of the realm of Eregion, and together they decide that they want to forge some great rings of power. Eventually they come up with a full 16. This would eventually become the 7 rings that would go to the dwarves, 9 rings to the men. Full 16. So, after these are completed, Anatar says to Celebrimbor, hey, you know, good job, mate. Let's celebrate. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a holiday. I'm going to go over and do some stuff, you know, maybe I'll come check back with you later. Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. You know, like, keep it down, you know, stuff like that. This is, you know, Anatar to hijack all the way back to, you know, Mordor, and he makes the 1 ring of power. Celebrimbor, on the other hand, is like, which I love because it kind of ties to the Silmarils. His grandfather, Feanor, made the 3 Silmarils. And so I could see in his mind, you know, like, hey, I've learned all this stuff, you know, from this guy, Anatar. You know, maybe he's away, maybe I could surprise him a little bit when he comes back, or something. You totally see what happens. You know, this is what the fun imagination part, but, you know, he makes these 3 rings, very mimicking the abilities of the Silmarils, 1 being of fire, 1 being of water, 1 being of air. And so, you know, like, what the Silmarils were like. So it's like, okay, Celebrimbor trying to be like his grandfather, making these things up. But the thing is that Annatar does not know about this. He's made these in secret. And then once Annatar, you know, now puts on the One Ring and reveals he's Sauron, he's like, what the heck? You're making more rings? Like, listen, I was cool with the whole 16 rings, which, by the way, I kind of helped. I kind of want those, by the way. But now you're making more rings? Those rings are mine now. And hence why he makes the war on the elves to go claim the rings, because he's a greedy son of a bee and wants these things. But apparently, the 3 rings are made first, before any of the other rings are made. And also, in the show, Sauron, you'll find out, you know, later who he is, but, you know, Sauron himself has a physical hand in making the 3 elven rings. I would be fine if it was any of the other rings, but no, he is right alongside Celebrimbor, forging, trying to get them, figuring out how do we get the 3 rings of power, and so he physically has a hand in making them. Also, another thing, you know, you would think that, you know, because at this point in the story of Rings of Power, Galadriel has been around we'll say, the current Rings of Power fair form of Sauron. It's not Annatar, it's a different name. We all knew who it was if you didn't know, but hey. It's Halbrand. We all knew that from the very beginning, for those of you who thought you were surprised by that. But hey, Halbrand, you know, is Sauron. And in the lore, she is one of the first people to suspect him and not trust him from the very beginning, before they even make moves. In the lore, Annatar, fair form of Sauron, the real fair form of Sauron, goes to Lindon, to the High King Gil-galad, and says, hey, I am an emissary from the Valar, I bring knowledge and gifts, let me help you. And Galadriel, along with Gil-galad, are like, nah, bro, we don't trust you. There's something off about you. Not welcome here. Like, Galadriel, one of the first people to, like, she can't fully see through the entire full deception, but she knows something is off about him. Doesn't really work on Celebrimbor. Sauron goes to Celebrimbor and says, hey, I'm a lord of gifts, let me help you, and Celebrimbor readily accepts him. But apparently, in this one, it's been heavily implied that she kind of is intrigued by him, and we're talking even, like, sexually here, like she kind of has the hots for him. Like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And to even further top this off, after she figures out that Halbrand is Sauron. So she knows who he is. This supposedly uber mega dark lord that she has specifically, in part of this show, has been hunting down for hundreds if not thousands of years. She finds out that he has now had a hand in helping make these rings of power. And her solution to this problem is, you know what we need to do? We shouldn't stop the process. No. We need to make more rings of power here. That's exactly what we should do. We should keep the rings of power that Sauron made, and we should make more. Excuse me? I'm sorry, I thought this was the guy that you absolutely hated and were hunting down and spending your entire whole life trying to get rid of. And now that you know that he has a hand in making these supposed things that will help you guys, and you realize that, you know, like, he might be lying and trying to bring about your destruction, you're going to say, no, let's keep him. And in fact, let's make more. You can see why I have a couple of issues with the show. This next bit, I thought I would get a little bit more up close and personal. That's why I have the camera on the smaller tripod. But you can see why I have certain issues with the entire Rings of Power and everything that goes. I even made a list right here. Here we go. I did a top 5 of characters who I enjoy or I would like to see or I sympathize with. And I have Prince Durin, the Dweller, Sauron, Adar, and Elendil. In no particular order. But okay, so yeah, I have the Dweller. So you know, the person who lit the Harfoot community on fire that we were all cheering. We have Adar, who is the leader of the Orcs, who is trying to create Mount Doom. And then we have Sauron, the Dark Lord himself. When I have a top 5 list and 3 of the top 5 are the villains that I'm rooting for, that's bad. Like, I actually sympathize with these characters. I'm like, yeah, these people are good, because compared to the rest of the people in the supposedly the good guys, they are horrible. And wow, how did it get to this? You know, like I feel like Theoden, you know, reminiscing. You know, like how did it come to this? Right, the Battle of Helm's Deep. You know, but I'm not going to mention, because I do have. I'm gonna follow up this video with another. I'm gonna try and do like a season recap, probably in 2 different videos. Halfway, the first 4, and then they do the last 4. Specifically revealing on the subject of the Southland arc and how, you know, Galadriel and Halbrand ties together. So I'm going to completely skipping over the Harfoots and, you know, the Elven community of what's going on over there and how they wrote into it, because, which is weird, because as I said, Durin was my favorite character, and if you go and look and see what other people have, Durin is one of the best characters. Everyone said like, hey, Durin is the best part, we love Durin, and I have notes here, because, you know, like, you want to talk about Durin, the arc of Durin goes nowhere. So I have notes right here. Like, what is the story of Durin? Spoiler, summation, what happens here? Apparently, Elrond is going to go visit Durin. So, apparently there is a super secret guarded by the dwarves right here. There's a scene where they open up this little chest, and of course you can't see it, it's behind of us, so right here I'm opening a chest, you can't see it, but then there's something gleaming into my eyes, and I'm like, oh, there's this very super secret that they have. And what is it? It's because they have discovered this new ore that is possibly more valuable than gold. Gee, I wonder what resource the dwarves valuable more than gold. What could it possibly be? You know, spoiler, this is Mithril. You know, so I'm like, oh, okay, they want to delve into Mithril? Okay, fine. Well, that was, we figured out how the origin of that came about. But, so we have this ore, but we find out that it is super secret. And so they kind of like shut down operations. Again, I'm just going from basic record. I don't know 100% all the basics, but this is how I understand it. This is what happens. They, you know, kind of shut down operations because, you know, they don't want people really knowing about this. Fair enough. Elrond goes to Durin and figures out what's kind of going on, that they're, you know, having this kind of operation. You know, it's been shut down, but, you know, and Durin says it's very dangerous, that's why they can't do it. But, you know, he eventually tells, you know, Elrond, you know, like, hey, you're my friend, you know, here's this little ingot that you may have as a token of our friendship. By the way, don't tell anyone about this because, you know, it's super secret. Elrond immediately goes back on his word and tells, hey, Celebrimbor, can you tell me what about this is? So, you know, there's that. But apparently, there is this sort of cancerous tree. Which, okay, that was one thing I didn't talk about in the canon-breaking things. Apparently, you know, the star, as long as it burns, you know, like the elves are going to live forever. Apparently, that's not true, because you have this cancer that's kind of coming on that the elves are going to die, apparently. And even though the light is still burning, they're going to die. So, again, that's fine. But anyway, apparently we see this cancerous tree revealed that you know, like, the elves might possibly die. So, Elrond goes back to Durin, as far as I know, and says, like, hey, we had this situation, are we able to get Mithril? So it's like, you know, now that he's kind of been made friends with Durin, so I'm like, hey, I want to, you know, this is kind of serious, I want to help my friend. So, okay, so we are mining now. So we open up the mine, we're getting Mithril, it was shut down, but we open up the mine now. Moving on, we go to, you know, as it's starting up, an explosion occurs. Some dwarves are kind of trapped in the rubble, you know, safely. You know, they're all taken out, so you know, they're all saved. But, you know, like, oh man, this was bad. You know, like, hey, Elrond, you see, this is really dangerous. How to get this? So, you know, like, we best shut this down. And so, as far as I know, you know, like, okay, so we're not mining then, right? Elrond figures out, oh wait, the cancer is spreading, you know, much quicker than we thought it was. So I'm like, oh, okay, so like we need to like speed this up. So hey, Durin, we actually he kind of kneels before the king and says like, we like, as a friend, I'm begging you, please give us Mithril. And so Durin's like, okay, so we are mining Mithril, so the mine's open now. Then we find out that, well, the King Durin, not just Prince Durin, because that's another thing. We have two Durins in here. Makes it confusing. King finds out that they are mining, you know, kind of really without his permission, because, you know, he's kind of the one that said, we're not mining right here. So he finds out that they're doing this, and he kind of casts Elrond out, and then, you know, shows Prince Durin, you know, what's up, like, no, you can't be doing mining of this, so the mines are now shut down, so we're not mining Mithril. And then Prince Durin goes and his wife have a little talk that, you know, like, you are going to be the future king, and so, you know, you need to be doing things that are right, and so, you know, this will be eventually your kingdom, your kids will be learning about you, you know, like, having to do what's right, so you should probably be mining Mithril. So they decide to, you know, go against their king and mine for Mithril. So the Mithril mine's open now. So we've gone from A to B to A to B to A to B. We're mining Mithril, we're not. We are, we're not. We are, we're not. That's the entire arc. Nothing happens. But, so yeah, you see why I'm having issues with this right here. So, you know, that was that whole arc right there. So I guess the point that I want to say is like, okay, so who wrote all of this? Like who was in charge of people? Because I'm like, okay, I want to know, like, what happened right here. And I have my computer's right here. You can't see it right here, but we have J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. These are the showrunners right here. And I want to know, like, okay, like, what did they have going for them? Because, you know, like if you are going to be adapting Tolkien, like, you have to have some, like, serious credentials, or like what happened, what did you do previously that they made it like, okay, these are the guys that we want. Interestingly enough, if I look on their IMDb page, I see Rings of Power, and the only thing before that is an uncredited writer for Star Trek Beyond, and that's it. Nothing else. He's brand new to the show, nothing under their belts, apparently. So apparently Amazon trusted these individuals to take care of the show. Now, I must preface this because, you know, they've actually been doing this for 20 years. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay have been friends for, you know, like, decades, and they've been writing for, you know, for 20 years. But I'm like, okay, so if you've been doing this for a long time, how come we don't have any record of you, like, in any film or pilot script? And apparently the common thread that I've been seeing is that their ideas have been scrapped for something else. Like, okay, well, if it was anything like the Rings of Power, I think I might know why. So I'm like, I think you need to go back to the drawing board, back to school, and see, like, how things work, how dialogue is, or how actions should be played out together. Because I'm like I'm not like a writer or anything. I mean, I'd like to be, you know, like, I want to tell stories, but, you know, like, I'm not, like, super good that I think, like, I'm good at. That's why I'm learning about stuff, you know, like, I want to know how to write stuff. But, you know, clearly I think these guys need to go to school a little bit to figure out how this stuff works here. So, how did they get the job here? Well, apparently some strings were pulled, as far as I know, and we have the long tendrils of J.J. Abrams and co. in here. Who is J.J. Abrams? J.J. Abrams made some calls to get them into the position here, and for those of you who remember, he directed and helped produce the show that is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Does anyone ever remember that? Or have you blotted that from your memory there? Because I'm like, what actually happened in there? Because we have a nice, beautiful mess of lore breaking and logic, you know, like, how does these actions tie with these others? Like, you have, like, Luke Skywalker, the most renowned Jedi, you know, like, everyone was saying that Darth Vader was unredeemable, and yet he comes along and says, like, I can get my dad back to the side of the light, you know, to the light. And apparently when Kylo Ren turns dark, he says, oh, it's all gone, I failed, I must go, Yoda, no speaking to anyone, I must be a hermit. How does that work? Also, he's dead, he's a Force ghost, and he can wield a lightsaber. Like, you're unstoppable now. Like you can just VoIP into whatever situation you need, pull out your lightsaber, and just go to town. Like, cause you're a Force ghost, you can't be killed. Like, that's sort of breaking. And then, of course, the lovely I think it's a meme at this point. The little dagger that Rey had, that if you just stand at this particular spot and you hold it out and you slide this thing out, that the wreckage of the Death Star will point you exactly to where you need to go to find the holocron. Like, the Death Star has not, it's been kind of like buried in the ocean. It hasn't crumbled, it hasn't settled in the water or anything. Nothing is moved, so that if you stand on it, it'll tell you exactly where you need to go. Interestingly, we have a bladed instrument that is like super key to all of this. And in Rings of Power, we also have a mysterious blade that also activates certain things as a very major plot device. That's interesting. But who wrote the Rings, the Rise of Skywalker? We don't know. We know who Rings of Power. That's J.D. Piquet and Patrick McKay. Alex Kurtzman wrote the Rise of Skywalker. He's one of J.J. Abrams' lackeys right there. And want to know what else Alex Kurtzman wrote? Well, he helped write all of Star Trek Picard Season 1. Now, Star Trek Picard has been very dissected and obliterated by the fans. That they feel that Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek does not exist in Star Trek Picard. They've been very vocal about that, but unfortunately, because while they are extremely dedicated fan base, they are quite small enough. They're large enough to make money off of it, but they're not large, so large that when people vocalize things that they can easily calm it down. Not so with Tolkien fans. But what do people say about Star Trek Picard? Because, well, obviously it's not Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, so what does it feel like? Well, because we are not dumb, okay? Like we are able to pick up on certain things. And it's interestingly that, you know, like, I'm not the only one to have noticed like a couple of different trends. I was not the first one to pick up on this, but let's see what Jeremy Jahns has to say about Star Trek Picard Season 1. And because I'm new to this, I don't know how to take footage and edit it from cassette onto, like, in the editing formula. So basically what I have to do is I have to pick up the tripod right here and show you guys right here. So yeah, this is how we're doing it. So yeah, you know, warning, spoilers right here. But yeah, we're at, let's see, we're at about 30 seconds in to Star Trek Picard Season 1. Let's see what Jeremy Jahns has to say, because I don't want to get copyright because of others. So like, this is why I'm doing it this way. I have no idea what copyright law is, but here we go. What does he have to say?
Yeah, only if you care. Stick around if you've watched it or you don't care. Alright, so now the spoiler warning's done. so that Mass Effect show. Who saw that coming? So start.
Interesting. That he says that it's much like Mass Effect. That's interesting. My hypothesis is that these guys only watch movies, play video games, and don't read any books or the lore or understand it, and they just think that they can copy the stuff that they find in these sort of video games and movies that they play and try to rip it off onto someplace else. I know, it sounds terrible, but that's my conclusion, because this is not the only one. Let's see what I think one of the two diehard Gene Roddenberry Star Trek fans are. We have Mike Stacklasa and Rich Evans from RedLetterMedia, and let's see what they do. This is from their, they were brave enough to do 6, 7, and 8 on their review show, and this is 42 minutes 56 seconds. And for those of you who have the timestamp there and want to watch there, see if I can turn up the volume just a little bit, just so we can get that there. Here we go. What do they have to say?
So what you're saying is I'm foolish.
And then the artifact the Romulans found that makes people have insane visions that they ripped off straight from Mass Effect. I know you're not a video game guy. They have gone, I didn't say anything about it before, they've gone from kind of being blatantly inspired by Mass Effect, and I never brought it up because you're not a video game guy, and now they are directly ripping it off with the thing that gives you the psychotic visions and the hints of a race that comes in to wipe everybody out once you develop AI. Directly ripping off, not only directly ripping off Mass Effect 3, but they're ripping off the bad one for some reason.
Wow.
It's blatant.
Alright, so I think you kind of get the idea right here. So where am I going with this? So, Alex Kurtzman, part of the whole J.J. Abrams and Company, Bad Robot production, that's what they're part of. We have this whole Star Trek Picard debacle here that doesn't seem to be Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. It seems to be more like Mass Effect. Interestingly, that they have this right here. This one, because I wasn't not the first one to notice this one. I've been hearing this, that they happen to be others going around that say it seems more like Mass Effect that I was there. I did pick up a little bit on this one because I'm a little bit notice right here, but considering the Rings of Power, let's see what people have to say. Unfortunately, I do not have the clip of Angry Joe on here from the Angry Joe Show. I tried finding it, but I do remember hearing about it. That he was one of the first ones that I remember saying that, because, you know, he's mentioned that this doesn't feel like Middle Earth or Tolkien. And so, like, he mentioned, like, if I had to say anything, it kind of feels like Dragon Age. And I was like, that's interesting. I was kind of, you know, feeling just slightly, it was kind of like in the back of my brain, because I know Lord of the Rings lore far better than Dragon. I'm somewhat familiar with Dragon Age, but I had to kind of be like, yeah, okay. It seems a little bit, because I can go with that, because, you know, this obviously is in Tolkien's Middle-earth. But, again, I see Shad from Night's Watch and Nathan as well, so shout out to Shad and Nathan. Here we have their Rings of Power Episode 1 live stream review. Let's see what they have to say. They are at timestamp 1 hour, 53 minutes, 40 seconds. See what they have to say.
He's
He calls him Knifey.
Yes, I got like that was. Okay. I first heard that in Dragon Age, the video game, and it was appropriate. I think have you never heard that?
I have not heard that one.
It's
so. This is the second reference to that we have because the Rings of Power are part of J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, who got their endorsement from J.J. Abrams. And now we have these people saying that we're seeing things of other video games being used, not of the original lore that they are supposed to be doing, but they're trying to apparently liking the stories that they've played or know about, and they want to tell those rather than the stories they're supposed to tell. And do you remember everything I said about the whole Durin arc, about we're getting Mithril, we're not getting Mithril and stuff like that? Well, I happened to do a little research here, and I looked up the Dragon Age wiki, and I happened to come across lyrium. And I think, I wasn't the first one, so I think some comment, I think I was on the Shadiversity. It's not, well, Shadiversity's main channel, Night's Watch, is the thing that I just showed you from there. That's the one where they do movie reviews and cathartic rants. But I happened to notice a comment that I latched onto, and I looked up lyrium from Dragon Age. Let me read a little bit of this for you and see if it sounds familiar. Lyrium is a valuable but dangerous mineral that forms beneath the surface of Thedas. Thedas being the world that they have in Dragon Age here. The mineral is extremely volatile and sometimes explodes for no apparent reason. Physical contact with raw lyrium ore will cause serious injury and psychological damage for humans, elves, and Kunari, and any contact with the unrefined substance will kill a mage outright. Interestingly, when you have the refined lyrium, that it enhances a mage's powers when they use the mithril to make the Rings of Power. The mining caste of the dwarves is the only group capable of safely mining and processing lyrium into a less dangerous and more useful form. How they achieve this is a tightly guarded secret. In its natural state, lyrium is described as a metal. When properly refined, lyrium becomes a smooth, slightly iridescent, silvery liquid. Now again, this whole thing is pretty much conjecture, but I can't help but notice a certain trend here. That I am not the only one to notice certain things, and there's other people who are saying like, hey, there seems to be other things going on with because we have people wanting to do a space Star Trek thing, supposedly, but instead they wanted to actually do their own Mass Effect thing, but people aren't really wild about Mass Effect, so we have gotten the rights to Star Trek, so let's tell our Mass Effect story under the guise of Star Trek so that more people will watch it and will get more money. Do I say that they're trying to do their Dragon Age fan fiction right here? But, a lot of people don't really fully know about Dragon Age. So we have the rights to Tolkien, so let's do our Dragon Age stuff with Tolkien disguise on it. Again, this might sound a little bit harsh, and I'm trying to not mean to, but it's all very, very odd coincidence that I'm noticing here. And so, again, like, how much of this can I verify? Not a whole lot. I'm just throwing out ideas, but, it seems like a weird pattern that I'm noticing here. And from what the conclusion that I can get right here is that they seem to like stories of the movies that they watch and the video games they play, because, like, I watch movies and I play video games. Because speaking of video games, for instance, I have my Xbox over there, and I've been, busily doing some research on the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, follow up on there, and I find Shadow of Mordor, the whole arc about Celebrimbor and the Rings of Talion, I find that more canon than the actual Rings of Power, and Shadow of Mordor isn't even canon. Like this is kind of where we're at right now. But, okay, so, like, and, I kind of love some of the storytelling, even though I know it's, like, this, like, never really happened, but it's kind of fun to postulate, like, that this is fun, these stories that we have. And I know might be difficult, hard to say, but, there's a lot of people out there who have been, like, much more harsher than me, calling out these two gentlemen, that, like their writing is not up to par, and that they need, to go back and do some research or do something to get a more quality product. And which I'm all for, because, like, if any of you have watched some of the stuff on my channel, is that I hold to the belief that people can change and, grow and adapt. And, because, like, that's why I want to write stories and to tell some kind. I mean, I kind of dabbled into, like, maybe I could even be a dungeon master for doing dungeons as opposed to just being a player in the game. Like, I want to tell stories and create my own worlds and stuff like this. And a lot of this is because I know that it can be if for some reason JD Payne and Patrick McKay, if you're watching this, how, I have no idea, but if you're watching this, I hold to the belief deeply that people can grow and change and become better. I am in no way an authority on writing stories, but I do want to. I want to tell stories, and that's why I learn as much as I can of how to do it. Because, funny thing is enough, I pretty much hated English growing up, and grammar and stuff like that, which is weird because nowadays I'm learning an entire new language, the language of the Netherlands, Dutch. But, like, because I want to learn and become more because of the language of, like, kind of like my homeland. That, I wrote it if you've seen videos way before that I mentioned about that. But so, like, I'm learning about how grammar works and about first person and third person, whether their narrative is omniscient or limited. I learned that from Shad Brooks, who apparently kind of learned it from Brandon Sanderson, that got me hooking on his videos over there on writing. So, I mean, there are available resources to all of us, including me and you. Again, I'm talking to you, JD Payne and Patrick McKay, and even anyone else who's watching this. If you are a beginning writer who's thinking they want to be a good writer, hey, it can't be worse than Rings of Power. Unfortunately, sorry, JD and Patrick, but there's some things that need to be done to help with the story here, and I really want to encourage you and anyone else who is watching this that, yes, I know it can be hard to hear criticism, but I need to bring this up because, like, I want the stories to be good and to have meaning in that, and, like, do I expect to become like a worldwide bestseller if I ever do like screenplays or novels or what? No, I don't. I mean, Tolkien, I have no idea how many full years he spent before, releasing, The Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty sure it was like, I think like 20 years before he finally released it, like how much work he put into that before it came out. Some people, can write the first draft, do some minor tweakings, and it's, decent right off the bat. I'm not one of them. But, I'm learning as much as I can from like Brandon Sanderson's videos on writing. I'm trying to do the best I can so that, like, if I do want to tell stories, I want it to be good and enjoyable and the best that I could possibly do. And there's always the way up to learning and to grow. And so with this, because there's this thing called constructive criticism. I really have this thing about criticism in general, because criticism has to be some way of helping people. And again, so on that part of the criticism where people are just ranting and raving about sort of thing, I can't understand how that can be a bit, much. Like, I want the constructive criticism, like, hey, this is what I felt didn't work. Like, I'm trying to help you grow and be better. Here's what I think, at least, again, my 2 cents worth of what it can be. So, again, there's a place for righteous anger and being, upset and wanting to be better. But then I think there's more of a place of constructive criticism here. So, I think that, because does anyone remember the Sonic the Hedgehog movie when the first trailer came out, and how the entire like internet just completely just broke when they saw what Sonic looked like? And when we saw it, we were like, no, that is not what Sonic is like. And like the backlash of it, whether again being constructive or just ranting about there. But hey, kudos to whoever received the criticism, and they were like, hey, all right, listen, we've received word of stuff there that you guys don't seem to be enjoying it. Okay, I know our original release date was, I think, somewhere in January or December. They said we're going to push it back to February, and we're going to do some heavy lifting and work on the CGI. We apologize. Let's work on that. And you know what? We said that other trailers happened to come out and with the redesigned look of Sonic and what the feel of the movie was like, and we're like, okay, you know what? That's a bit better. That looks a bit more. I'm kind of interested in now. And guess what? When the final product came out, it was actually pretty good. We all seemed to like it. So like, hey, good on to, again, I forget, who was in charge of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, but, there was, something where they kind of admitted certain mistakes and are able to adapt. And I mean, hey, speaking of Lord of the Rings, the whole thing right here, I don't know if you remember, but, because I have the Blu-ray extended edition full set right there. And if you look at the Return of the King's appendices, the makings of Middle-earth, specifically Weta Workshop, in that section right there, the designs of stuff that they came about, and you go to the Witch King of Angmar. I'd love to play it for you, but then I would have to move a lot of stuff right there to get that up there. But summation here, the original design of the Witch King looked really cool. And fairly low ranking of what, like, John Howe, I believe, was the main of the writer, but there was a big problem. It looked too similar to what was established, what Sauron was like. But, okay, they're trying to say, like, well, he's a servant of Sauron, so it kind of naturally, but people who were watching unfamiliar with kind of the lore, like, sort of newbies to there, so that they have this whole team of people who are lore masters and sort of, like, normies, as we call them, to show, like, hey, does Sauron show up on the battlefield at Pelennor Fields? And they were getting a bunch of these people like, because they had made the props, they had gone and filmed it, and they brought editing it and were like, we may have made a mistake here, guys. Like they kind of do have a point. They put up Sauron and they put up the Witch King, like, that does look similar. So, we have to fix this. And they went back to the drawing board. Mostly it was the helmet. That was the thing that was throwing people off. So like, okay, we'll redesign the helmet. We kind of have to make the helmet. We We have to go out there and shoot everything again, and then we'll come back and edit it, and you know what? It was a whole lot better, I think, in my opinion. By the way, that Witch King helmet looks awesome and badass. I love that helmet. It's like ingrained in ours. So yeah, if you guys want to go check that out, the Lord of the Rings Disc 5, Appendices of Weta Workshop, the Designing of Middle-earth. Check it out there. Look for the Witch King. You kind of have to fast forward a little bit, but when you start seeing images of Witch King, you'll find it there. So, you know, that was Peter Jackson, specifically in the whole Lord of the Rings realm, where like even they were making like in full, trying to do what they thought was the best. They realized, wait a minute, unknowingly we made a bit of a mistake that people were getting confused, and we need to fix it. So, you know, these are some of the things that I think that whoever the writers or what Amazon needs to figure out, that, you know, hey, this is something that they should be aware of, that we're trying to do our best to give you guys, but we the fans are trying to give you feedback. So, what you gonna do with it? Well, you could do this. And I'm not making this up. This is their response to us. This is Nerdrotic. What do they have to say? From 1 minute and 33 seconds of Amazon in panic mode. What do you got, Gary?
Rings of Power showrunners discuss patently evil backlash to show. I don't see how people who are saying these things think they are fighting for good. It's patently evil.
Okay. Let me get this straight. You create a show. You were supposed to be faithful to the lore, the stuff that we want to see. We want to see badass Numenor. We want to see the might of the elves. We want to see the darkness of Mordor coming to power. You decide to throw that away and do your own stuff. Not to say that people can't make their own sort of like fan fiction or whatever, but you know, like people say that, you know, like, hey, you know, this is sort of our take. I mean, like for instance, the like I said, the Shadow of Mordor game, that's not canon. It's like it's their own story. They're like, hey, we want to do something, and then when people don't like your show, and you know, trying to criticize it and at least give some form of feedback to say like, hey, not really big fans, instead of listening to them, you decide to call us names, make fun of us, and try to silence us. Okay. Okay. So, you can see how much of a problem I have with the Rings of Power, because it was, you know, like, it was bad enough already, just with just the initial product of itself, you know, like, and we're trying to be helpful and making, you know, criticism to help you out. I know some people may get too bit angry and they don't give constructive criticism. That's a subject for a whole nother time. But when there is a vast wave of information coming your way, and has a general theme of saying like, hey, the product that you have promised us that is not what you've got, and we're all kind of disappointed, you say, no, shut up. You are evil for doing that, and you should listen and enjoy our stuff. Am I reading that wrong? Or is that's what we got right here, right? That seems what happened to go, because I know, because I get it. Having people criticize your work is not fun, and you know, when you try and put stuff, you know, when you make a work, like, I know for sure that there's nothing really of like big momentum thing that I've done that was type of criticism, but you know, there have been small things in my life that I put, you know, some certain work into, and people kind of seem to have this, you know, carefree kind of discarding attitude. I'm like, hey, listen, I put work into that. So like I get when people kind of ignore or criticize or so on, so I get that, but I know it's a fine line. There has to be a point when there's like, okay, there has to be a point where like when you realize I'm like, hey, listen, I've made a mistake. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to learn and grow. I'm not going to accept this as a defeat. I'm going to say, hey, this was just one way for me to learn and grow something to make myself better, which is the mindset that I hold on to and I hope to hold on to until I die. You know, it's like, I mean, I just showed you. We've gone back and forth on trying to flip the cameras around so I could show you what's going on over here because I don't know how to do that stuff. So if somebody else knows how to do that, please let me know. Because, you know, like I'm learning and growing. I'm doing this right here. So, again, I have no idea in editing how long this video is going to be. I do apologize. But, you know, like I have to get these things off of my chest here. And, you know, so, hey, here we go. Let's play this game here for a bit. I don't normally do this on my channel here, but, you know, I appreciate you guys watching in and sitting what I have to say and what I have to bring forward to this. I mean, I kind of a big medieval historian and enthusiast, and I could have liked these things. And, you know, if there's anything that I've gotten wrong so far of this, you know, please let me know. Let me know what I've gotten wrong. If anything I said about whatever JD Picard or Star Trek Picard or anything of the previous videos, I'll take your criticism. And you know what? Let's see what happens. You know, like if you kind of seem to enjoy this and you want to let other people know, hey, why don't you just leave a like? I've never asked this before. I have no idea what the YouTube algorithm is like. You want to subscribe? You're welcome if you want to. I'm like, I am a blip on the radar. I have no idea why people, I mean, I have like mostly my close family and friends who are subscribed. I mean, if you could see what the channel is like, but hey, I mean, if people are interested in this, then like, I would be moved that you would want to be a part of this. So like, I would just say like, hey, share this with someone if you think it needs to be spread. If you liked it, you know, leave a like, leave a comment. You know, like I would appreciate and want to know what your feedback is, because like and just because I wouldn't criticize you, and maybe it's just like, and if anything, if you had anything negative to say, well, hey, go ahead, so put a little comment right there. So I'm like, hey, if I wasn't quite sure about this one, but you know, maybe could you look into that? Like, hey, I'll be like, hey, thanks for commenting that. I'll do my best to amend that situation and do better, because that's what I hold to. So, I don't want to leave this movie on a downer. So, I just want to thank you all who happen to be watching this. And I will leave you with, because, well, this show doesn't really hold up. By the way, me and my family, my mom and my dad, on pretty much every Sunday afternoon, we all get together and we watch a particular episode. We got up to episode 6, and we kind of gave up on it. You know, that's how far we lasted. So instead, we decided to watch something else. And so instead of watching Rings of Power and trying to see like if all of this is true or what all the hype is on, is it worth going through all of this? If you are interested in a movie or, you know, series about a small town group of gatherers who are dealing with a very dark, luminous, now I say apocalyptic threat, and they have to come together and deal with the circumstances that might have to grow and come together, and dealing with subjects of like having their sort of inner darkness that they have, that there is like a dark path that they can go down and how they choose to be better, then I would suggest the show Jericho, which is currently the one that my family are going through right now. Jericho is a fantastic season. Like also it was one season and that was it. They tried to renew for like a half a season, so I don't know if that counts for it, but you know, the first season, the finale, clearly it's like almost like the perfect ending. Like you just leave it there and kind of leave it to your own imagination of like what happened after there. But it is a film, a series about a small town in Jericho, Kansas, and we have this the whole small town feel that farm kind of hillbilly culture, and the Denver, Colorado is wiped from the map by an atomic bomb. And okay, like if you're talking about like Mount Doom erupting and causing, you know, like no repercussions whatsoever, like that pyroclastic flow we all saw in there, then here is a bomb that went off, and we have all the storm and radiation and everything coming its way down into Kansas, and how they deal with that of like, okay, getting power back on, how do we handle food, like, okay, we're kind of in like the harvest months, you know, so like winter is coming, so like how do we prepare for having heat in there, like, and the whole town of like trying to hold on and panic setting in and trying to band together. It is fantastically well written characters who have, you know, like choices and decisions that actually make sense, and you're rooting for these ones. And interestingly enough, speaking about the whole Durin thing, about going back and forth, will they or won't they, with the whole mind, interestingly enough, there are some kind of arcs of characters that are kind of based on will they or won't they, kind of on the whole romance aspect of like, will this person go with this person or this person? But it's very well written, and you understand, like, okay, I could understand why they would go with this person, but they have ties to this person over here, so you kind of want to see that one go, but you could see, like, how this one was over there, so I'm like, okay, so will they go or this way? And, oh my gosh, it's so good. This was the show that got me into writing and wanting to tell my own stories, and to, like, so that was the one that show, because the trailers for the show of Jericho wasn't all that captivating. It was like, oh, okay, this seems like a kind of an interesting show. And, you know, when my family decided to first watch it when it aired, I think we saw like the pilot and the second episode. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is pretty good. And after like episode 3 or 4, like we were hooked. And for anyone to know, like there are some pretty diehard fans of Jericho. And so I will leave that as for you there, so that if you are interested in a show, go watch Jericho. And, you know, like, because, you know, obviously Rings of Power doesn't seem to be holding up right there. Like the whole review system coming in of, like, even, like, now critics are being around, like, hey, you know, kind of a spectacular dud is what they seem to be calling, you know, like, it doesn't seem to be holding up very well. And, of course, you know, what the showrunners are trying to do now. So I will leave you on the good note of something else to watch, and if you like that. So, again, if you like this video, leave a like, that'd be nice. Comment, I'll accept criticism, you know I will. And I might have another video talking about the more detailed plot line of the Southlands and Galadriel story arc, so look out for that one, or any other videos that I might have. So, I'll leave you with, keep a watchful eye.